Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today, my friends, we are going over the absolute best of the best when it comes to Warzone weaponry. We are breaking down the top 10 best meta weapons to be using right now in Season 5. Over the course of this season, we've seen some meta changes and had some weapons, shift up and shift down. Obviously, throughout the past few seasons, a lot has changed. Right now, though, the overall meta is pretty interesting. There's a few standout weapons that I think we didn't really expect to be as good as they are, but hey, here we are. So as we go over the top 10 best weapons to use right now, if you enjoy the video at any point, or if you find it helpful, let me know by dropping a like on it. It really does help out the channel. And of course, if you're new to the channel or if you have not already subscribed, we are on the road to 800,000 subs. So if you want to stay up to date with everything going on in COD, this is the place to be. So feel free to hit that sub button, maybe even click that bell icon. That way you'll always know whenever I upload a new video. All right, so at number 10, I've got the Modern Warfare MP5. We talked about this a bit earlier on this week, but this did actually get a stealth buff recently, specifically to these 10mm rounds. But unfortunately, the downside here is that that is capped out at a 30-round mag. So if you're using these, you have a really great TTK. It is incredibly fast up close, but it is relatively limited to solos and duos. Whereas if you're running the basic 45 round, you could use that in solos, duos, trios, quads, you name it, you're pretty much good there. So you could definitely go for the 10mm rounds right now, but you are going to be a bit more limited. And I wouldn't recommend those for like an overall and a more versatile build. And the reason that the MW-MP5 is at number 10 is just because this is very limited to just close range fights. Whereas as we get throughout the video, you guys will notice the top weapons, the better weapons, are ones that are versatile in more than just one specific area. So obviously an SMG is only going to be so good. But as far as the setup goes here, it's the basic one. We all know this one at this point. Monolithic integral suppressor, Merc foregrip. Either the 45 or the 10mm, doesn't really matter. If you're playing solos or duos, go for 10mm. If you're going above that, I would go for the 45. We're also going to go for sleight of hand, especially if you're using the 10mm, the 30 rounds, you want sleight of hand on there for sure. Then I also go for the collapsible stock. This in general is a setup that I've really been enjoying. Like I said, you could swap between the ammo, but the other four attachments, pretty standard, and we've known this for quite some time. Now at number 9, I've got the OTS, and just like the MW-MP5, while this is insanely good up close, it is limited by its range, more so here than the MP5, but I just prefer this in general. Something about the OTS just feels right. It's got great mobility all around. Obviously, you can make it even faster with some of the Cold War attachments. Its TTK is also insane, and you don't have to run a specific mag to get that TTK. Just base weapon by default is insanely good. And we also know the basic setup here too. It's a Cold War SMG, so it's sort of a copy and paste with all these, but compared to some of the other Cold War subs, this thing is just so good. Basic setup here, Groove suppressor for better range and control, same deal with Task Force. Tiger Team's gonna get you some better mobility. We go for the VDV 40 round fast mag because it's just gonna let you fly and fry. You reload super quick, which is super convenient. Then for the last one, you could either go for the skeletal stock or you could go for the serpent wrap. Just depends on what you want more, a better ADS time or a better mobility overall with ADS firing, move speed, and strafe speed and whatnot. Personally, I like the serpent wrap a bit more, but you could go either way there, and the weapon's gonna be a beast. Now, I won't lie, past the number 10 and 9 spot here, this is where things get a lot more competitive because for the most part, numbers 8 through 11, which you guys will see in the video, are more so ranged weapons. That is obviously the main meta here in Warzone, and a lot of these weapons are very competitive with one another. But at the number 8 spot, I've got the Bruin. This would be higher, but some of the other TTKs that these weapons have outclassed the Bruin. Their range outclasses the Bruin. Obviously, this is a Modern Warfare LMG, so its mobility is especially not all that great when you compare it to some of the other weapons that we're going to get to here, but there's no denying this thing is incredibly easy to use, and we've looked at the TTK recently. It's pretty much straight through and through a middle-of-the-pack weapon. You're never going to have like a bad fight with this thing. There are just some better options out there, but it's still a top weapon in the game for sure. Of course, we're starting off with the monolithic suppressor. That's a basic one. You could either go for the Horizon or the Summit barrel. You'll get more control with the Summit barrel, but it's going to slow you down a bit more, so I opt for the Horizon barrel personally. I also go for either the Commando foregrip or the Tac Laser, one or the other. Tac Lasers will be a bit snappier, but you get more control out of the Commando foregrip. You got to go for the 60 round mags just to make it a bit faster. It's going to hurt the overall recoil a bit, but it's going to make it a lot more versatile in my opinion. Then I go for different optics. Sometimes I like to go for the blue dot hollow sight. Most of the time though, the VOK 3x optic with the T-pose reticle is going to be the standard option for most players out there. It's a bit better for more ranged fights. So overall, again, a very standard setup. The Bruin though, just very consistent. That's why it's in the top 10. It's a solid choice. You can't really go wrong with it, but it's not number 1. Now, number 7 might come as a surprise to a lot of players. It's the Cold War AK-47. Statistically, there's not many weapons that are better than this, but while it's great on paper, In game, it is slightly held back by the fact that it's not super easy to use. It's not the fastest weapon in the world because it's a rifle, so it is relatively slow. And also the recoil is not super ideal, especially for ranged fights, but I really think this weapon is best as a close range weapon, but it's got to be on the top 10 and relatively higher than some of these other options because it is versatile. You could use it at a range. It's just going to be a bit harder to do so, but up close as like an SMG alternative, this thing's going to fry. Like, its TTK up close is unreal. For that reason, we're going to start off with the basic suppressor. You've already got the range of a rifle on there, so you don't have to worry about the agency suppressor or the GRU suppressor's added range. For a close range option here, we're not going to go for a barrel. It's really not needed. Even for some long range options, you don't absolutely have to have a barrel on there. You could go for like the Liberator, get some better control and velocity out of there, but really just a no barrel option here. It actually works surprisingly well. You gotta go for the Spetsnaz grip. The recoil is just no bueno here. It's obnoxious at any kind of range. I like to go for an extra mag. Some people like the 60. For me, it's a bit too slow and bogs down the weapon a bit too much, so I just go for the standard 45. You don't really have to worry about it being not enough because the fire rate here is not insane, and you also don't get a huge mobility penalty because of that either. I'm going to go ahead and throw on the Tiger Team Spotlight to add some better mobility to this thing. Makes it a bit more efficient for using it as a secondary or a close and medium range weapon. And then finally, depending on how you want to use it and how comfortable you are with this weapon, that's going to determine your final attachment. For any kind of medium range, you definitely want to have an optic here, probably a Microflex LED at the minimum, but using something like a skeletal stock over an optic could be really, really good for a close range fight. The serpent grip over a stock or an optic could also really be good for close range fighting, makes it a bit snappier with that faster ADS, but for the most versatile build, that Microflex LED is probably your best bet. Then at number 6, we've got the MG82, which statistically, again, is great, just like the AK-47. Over range, this has the best TTK in the game, but it's not incredibly easy to use, and it's also relatively slow since it is an LMG, so I feel like its recoil and its mobility sort of hold it back some from being like a top 5 or even a top 3 weapon. But if we're just going simply off of range TTK, this would be number 1. But of course, we have to bring in all the other factors as well. But overall, the MG82 is a beast. You will delete players with this, but it does take a lot of getting used to, and it's not a weapon that every single player can use like some of these other upcoming weapons will be. The ease of use here is definitely a bit more than some other weapons, but we're starting off with the agency suppressor. That's basic, keeps you off the radar, helps out with the range of velocity, and also helps out with the control. Now, for the barrels, you got 2 options. You could go task force or match grade. I believe you get about 15 extra meters of range before the damage drop-off happens if you use task force, but it also slows you down even more. And so for that reason, I feel like match grade is sufficient. You're getting better range, better control, and better velocity out of it already, and you're not getting as big of a mobility decrease on an already very, very slow weapon. I'm going to go for the 3x optic here. Personally, I like the precision reticle a lot as a base reticle. However, you guys know this by now if you watch the loadout videos. The deep sea reticle, that's part of the I think it's called the Coral Reef Milano bundle. It's an incredibly good optic. It's basically like a makeshift blue dot, so I like to run that on there. Like I said, the recoil is pretty ugly here, so we got to go for the field agent grip. Then finally, I like the fast mag because you do have 100 rounds, but this thing has a fast fire rate and it's an LMG, so you reload very, very slowly. So getting that faster reload off is honestly pretty crucial in my opinion. But overall, a high skill weapon that is high risk, but very high reward at the same time. Now, at number 5, I've got the Krig. Some players are going to agree with this spot, others are going to disagree. The Krig's last nerf, to me, made it a lot less viable. It is still good, and we've proven that through stats. Other channels have also proven that through stats. Like, I think True Game Data talked about how good the neck multiplier is on the Krig. That sort of keeps it as one of the better weapons in the game. But when it comes down to it, it is a very easy weapon to use. But there are some heavier hitting weapons that could pay off more that aren't nearly as hard to use as the MG82 that statistically will outgun this thing if you're hitting shot for shot. So very easy weapon to use, doesn't have the greatest TTK in the world, but it's decent enough so that any kind of player, really good, bad, mediocre, right in the center, you know, anyone can pick this up and do well with it because it's just so easy to use. There's no recoil, and its damage is just good enough if you're able to land chest shots, neck shots, head shots, that it'll be relatively competitive. We know the setup here, though. We've been using this for quite some time. Of course, we're starting off agency. You could either go Ranger or Mil-Spec. Personally, I go for Mil-Spec just to maximize that range option there. You're obviously using this for medium and longer range fights as is. Again, we're going for the 3x optic. I like to go for the 60 round mag. 45 is going to run out relatively fast. The fire rate's not insane, but it's just fast enough that 60 is going to be the sweet spot there, I would say. Then lastly, you can sort of mess around. Personally, I don't think you need an underbarrel on this. The recoil is so easy already. It's a mindless weapon. It's just point and shoot. But if you're struggling with it, go for the field agent. Personally though, I really like to rock the Raider stock on here. You get some better mobility and it just feels better overall as a more aggressive rifle. This is my highly recommended setup if you're a Krig fan still, but personally I don't think it's the best option in the game anymore. Now at number 4, I've got the C58. This thing has seen some nerfs recently, but if you're landing a headshot in here, 1 to 2 headshots per fight, you're still gonna fry with this thing. It's got incredible range, incredible power. Its recoil is not the easiest to control in the world, but it is still totally usable in my opinion. It did see, like I said, some nerfs recently, but when it comes down to it, recoil in COD's not all that much, and especially in this case, it is very easy to relearn that pattern, figure out how you have to counter it, and go about that in gameplay. Again, we're starting off with the agency suppressor. At this point, I feel like task force is a mandatory one because they have nerfed some of the range with it, so you're getting that better velocity and range and control yet again. We got to go for the field agent to really minimize that recoil in general. Obviously, we're going for the 3 times. We'll throw on a reticle there as needed. And then I also like to go for the 45 round drum. You could go higher with like the 55, but it's going to slow you down some. 45 is nice and snappy, and if you're landing your shots and you're consistent with it, 45 is totally sufficient, and overall it's going to be a very consistent rifle, perfect for those medium and long range fights. Feels very similar to like the AMAX before. Now at number 3, taking home that bronze medal, we've got the Pharah. In my opinion, we had the Krig pre-nerf, which was great. The Pharah was right behind that. The Krig got nerfed, the Pharah did not. So the Pharah is now that better option, at least in my opinion. I love this thing. It is also incredibly easy to use. The recoil, while it has also been nerfed, is still nothing crazy whatsoever. Very easy to control over range, whether you're on console or PC for that matter. Its damage and its TTK are still very impressive. If you're landing chest shots, neck shots, head shots, again, you're gonna be able to just fry everyone at any range with this thing. And it's, again, a very copy and paste based setup. Grew suppressor, we're going for the RPK barrel in this case. When it comes to the grip, I really like the speed grip here because it's going to help out with some of that more unpredictable horizontal recoil, whereas the Spetsnaz is focusing on horizontal and vertical. Speed grip is more so just horizontal, and vertical recoil is already super easy to counter as is. We're going to go for the 60 round mag here. Not only does it look cool if you have the blueprint, but it's going to be perfect for taking out 1 to 2 to 3 people at a time, getting those cleanups and, you know, squad wiping when you need it. And then lastly, of course, 3 times optic yet again. Pretty much the copy and paste Cold War rifle setup here, but it does what it needs to do. It's going to fry and it's very consistent. Now at number 2, we've actually got the Stoner. Kind of a surprise to a few of you. I know some of you are definitely on the Stoner meta already, but this thing is a powerhouse when it comes down to it. When it comes to the sheer damage outputs, the Stoner is one of the best in the game. It has very, very little recoil. Yes, it's an LMG, so it's not going to be as fast as some of these other options, but for medium and long range, the Stoner is easily one of the best options in the game right now. It takes some getting used to because it's not your standard assault rifle. You have to learn how to play more with an LMG, but obviously you're going to have something like an OTS, an AK, an MWMP5 as a secondary, so you're covered for mobility and rotations in close range. The Stoner, though, it's going to hit like a truck. It is incredibly consistent and very, very easy to use. I've been using this quite a bit recently, and I've really been enjoying it. Obviously, we're starting off with the agency suppressor. Just like with the MG82, match grade or task force is viable. If you're okay with just being a million pounds and running around like you're an elephant, task force is fine. Go for it. You're going to have better range with it, just you're going to be a lot slower. Match grade, in my opinion, is sufficient for what it is. You're still getting better range and velocity compared to the normal no barrel version of the Stoner. You're just not going to be as slow. Again, we're going to go for the 3 times optic. You could even go 4 times on this one, though, for all honesty. It's either or there is going to be a really good option. I like to go for field agent. Like I said, the recoil is not awful, but it's just going to smooth it out, especially over like 70, 80, 90, 100 meter fights. It's going to make it easier to stay on target. And then for the last one, you can sort of mess around. Fast mag could be ideal here. Even the 120 round mag could be ideal here. You could go for the Raider pad stock and get some decent strafe speed out of that. If you really want to snap your LMG, which isn't something I really would recommend, you could go for the Serpent, but that's really not on my list of go-tos. It's either going to be an ammo upgrade or the Raider pad stock, whichever you prefer. I'm going to go ahead and do fast mag for the sake of the video, but you sort of have free reign with that. Then at number 1, the best meta weapon in the game right now, in my opinion, is the EM2. It really comes down to a couple of factors here. Yes, it has recoil, which, you know, for other weapons has brought them down, but this thing is versatile and it is a powerhouse. It's going to hit hard, and you could use this as a medium and long range primary rifle and have something like an OTS as a secondary, or you could also use this as sniper support and sort of build it to be more close range based. And either way you do it, it's going to fry. It is a great rifle. If you're going for sniper support, go for the regular suppressor. If you're going for medium and long range, go for the agency suppressor. When it comes to the barrel, if you're going for sniper support, either go for ultralight or go for ranger. If you're going for range, go for task force. For whatever kind of build, I'd recommend field agent because like I said, the recoil is kind of ugly here. It's definitely not ideal. I'm not a fan of the base optic. I'd go for the 3x for range. I'd go for the microflex for close range or for sniper support yet again. Then I'd also go for the 40 round mag. I don't feel like 50 is needed here. 40 is going to be a lot snappier for both builds. 45 fast is going to hurt you with that ADS. So standard 40, I feel like is the best way to close things out here. And you get a very versatile weapon that's going to hit hard. You hit those chest, neck, headshots, you're gonna fry everyone. I've really been enjoying the EM2. So yeah, those are the top 10 best meta weapons in Warzone right now. Hopefully this video helped you guys out. If it did, let me know by dropping a like on the video. Would be seriously appreciated. And of course, if you're new here or if you have not already subscribed, feel free to do so. That way you can always stay up to date with everything going on in COD. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy. Have an awesome rest of your day. And I will catch you guys later. Peace out.